Okay, so today I want to talk about what is a società, a firm. We've got two generic types of società, and that's società per capitale e società di persona. The società per capitale could be a società per azione, for example. And these create a separate identity from the owner. So when you create a società per capitale, you're creating a subject in law. You're creating something that can act in law. So it has its own patrimony, and it has its own obligations and rights, and they're totally autonomous from the owners. So they can take on people. For example, Fiat is a società per capitale, and Fiat can take on workers, it can borrow money, it can sign contracts. Obviously, it needs a representative to do that. So you've got the administrators are the legal representatives of Fiat, and they do it on behalf of Fiat. But the owners have a separate patrimony. So they don't risk anything more than what they've invested in the company. One principle in law is that the debtor responds to the debt, not anyone else. So only the debtor pays his debts. And by creating this separate personalità giuridica, only Fiat responds to the debt, not the shareholders. Obviously, they have helped create Fiat, but it's Fiat which responds. So this is limited liability, responsabilità limitata in Italian. And this is a great advantage of having a società per capitale. In fact, most of the companies in the world and in Italy are società per capitale, the very big successful ones, because people don't want to take the risk, especially in the modern environment. In the modern economy, there's a lot of risk, very unpredictable. If it wasn't a società per capitale, it was a società di persona, you could risk losing your house, your car, your holiday home, your savings, everything. So this is a very important advantage for società per capitale. They really create this personality, juridical personality in law, which it can act in law. So yeah, with the personalità, società di persona, he owns the company and he makes all the decisions for the company. Him and his partners, maybe. But the fact is, he owns the company and really takes responsibility for that company. He's the one that takes on the debt for the company, because the company really doesn't have its own identity in law. It's just part of his possession. So he risks losing his house, losing his car, losing all his savings. If the company really does go badly and ends up failing and with lots of debts, the creditors first, they act against the company, and then they will act against the soci, the partners, and could take people's houses and property. So this is responsabilità illimitata, so unlimited liability, and it's a very dangerous path to go down on a big scale. You might get a lot of businesses that are small like this, so maybe they're not risking too much, but not really big ones. Really big ones like Fiat, for example, the shareholders would be not doing the best thing if they really took the responsibility for managing the company and taking all the risks and taking the debts on personally. So that's the important thing. Generic identifications in law, these two types. Here we can see just the company has this patrimony and all the personal possessions of the owners aren't in it. Now, what is a company? Cos'è una società? Well, the Cassazione has said already that a società è un rapporto contrattuale. It's a contractual report. It's just basically contracts. When you make contracts, you are making laws. And if you make an atto costitutivo to create a company, then that is the company. And you know, a company, enormous companies like Fiat, at the end of the day, they are just contracts between people, pacts, like our constitution is a pact between all the different elements of the republic. It's a constitution. Well, constitution for Fiat is written in the contract, in the constituent contract, and there it will say, you know, who owns Fiat, who gets what profit, what Fiat does. You know, it will outline all the fundamental elements of what Fiat is, and you know, these contracts can't be changed without unanimity. They need to be unanimous because they really are the fundamental identity of the business. And then there's other decisions that are majority voting with the shareholders, which could be, you know, who are the administrators, for example. So that's it's very important to understand that, you know, all the companies are just contracts, contractual relationships. And it says, con il contratto di società 2 o più persone conferiscono beni. So to have a company, you need 2 or more people. Now this isn't strictly true now, because they have, from Europe, they've created this società unipersonale, where you have one person. But it's quite unusual, and it really needs the prerequisites kept to if so. Here with one person, then normally there would be unlimited liability, because it's considered one person has the power to do what he likes and can manage the company, has a kind of despotic power over the company, and he can manage it. And suddenly he's faced with the debts, because any debts taken on would be with his permission. So, but with this unipersonale, this società unipersonale, it's not the case. It is responsabilità limitata. Basically, this was to encourage people to open companies and try to risk something to grow the economy. So it's a kind of incentive. But normally, unless you have this specific type and you keep to the prescriptions, you normally do need 2 or more people which conferiscono beni o servizi per esercizio in comune di un'attività economica. So if, for example, società di persona did have just one person, maybe somebody dies, or maybe somebody pulls out, or there's some problems for some reason, then you've got 6 months to find another partner, or you get dissolved as a company. So that's a società di persone. So you're dissolved as a company if you have just one person for more than 6 months. If you're a società di capitale, then that automatically means you have a serious sanction, which is you lose your limited liability. La responsabilità limitata cade. So, this again means being one person, you can influence, can have a strong influence. There's no other person to oppose you, and you can be quite oppressive to the administrators of the business, and that does mean that you yourself take on the debts, not some separate juridical persona giuridica. It also says di un'attività economica per lo scopo di dividere gli utili. Here we're talking about the business must make profit, because it says, so a società must make profit, un'attività economica per lo scopo di dividere gli utili. So this means there is profit. This assumes there is profit, or that's the purpose of this società. And this really does divide many società from other types of organizations like fondazioni, associazioni, comunione. There's lots of other organizations. A comunione, for example, is just un godimento. Lo scopo di godimento is there, not to divide profit. So, or with a foundation, any excess over the costs will be kept and used, invested into the fondazione. So it's not used to divide as profits. So this part is quite key to what is a società. When you're, for example, if a comunione could be if you inherit a property, and there's many of you that have inherited this property, you can use it for your enjoyment. You can maybe 1 week for me, another week for my brother, another week for my mum, etc. But if you use it to make profit, or it's a company and you start managing it, then it's not commerciale anymore. It's really a company. And again, we have to be careful how we act, because how we act will really define what we are. Whether we're a società, comunione, fondazione, and they all have different rules. And some will expose us to serious, some will expose us to more taxation, some less taxation, some more rights given to workers, some less, some more responsibility, some less responsibility for the debts, etc. So these are the laws which really we need to follow when we act in any form of ownership of an organisation.